Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to play a couple games with future hands, and this deck would probably be one of the most broken decks of all time if Charizard didn't exist. So as much as I hate Charizard, it is probably good that it is around because it would not be fun playing mirror matches of this all the time and just losing with every deck that you play against it. But yeah, we just basically, I don't know, it's a pretty simple deck. You have the Iron Crowns to raise the Iron Hands damage, the Iron Hands to take knockouts and take extra prizes, 2 Miraidon to accelerate to your Iron Hands, and it can also be a pretty big hitter, and 1 Mew EX for a little extra draw because you can break off late game Ionos. Other than that, we got, the Arvens to get our generators, to get Prime Catcher, to get all of our tools. We have Crisis Punch to do, because you can do like a ton of damage with it at the end of the game because the Iron Crowns raise the damage. So you can one-shot most anything with Crisis Punch at the end of the game, and yeah, you just got Boss Counter Catcher for Gus, because that's pretty important in this deck. Research to draw cards, a bunch of Ball Search to get your guys out, because that's really all you want to do is go second, get a Miraidon down and accelerate to an Iron Hands. And I was playing the Future A spec at one point, which I still think is pretty decent. I'll probably put a game at the end that I played it in a tournament. But the Prime Catcher is just really important. You'll see in the first game why it's so important in a deck like this. It's unfortunate because the future cards, the future A spec is really cool, and this deck does need extra energy acceleration, and not having it does require you to hit some generators or to be able to use Miraidon twice. But, you can pull that off a lot of the time. And let's get into the games. And before this starts, I do the first game here where I'm kind of just talking through a bit of my mindset while I'm playing, and the other games I record over at 2x speed after the fact. Let me know what you guys prefer. The other way's quicker, this ends up for longer videos, but it might be a little more helpful, so let me know. As long as this stays in the active, we can take a prize and accelerate some energy. Actually, maybe it would almost be better if they retreated this out of the active. I don't know that you really want to take a prize turn 1 with this in this matchup. I guess it does go with like the 1, 2, 3 prize map. If you can just go 1, take 2 prizes at any point, and then knock out Pidgey for 3. Now we definitely want to take a prize. It's their only Charmander. And yeah, we're not getting our guy knocked down next turn. Wow, this is terribly unfortunate. I'm just gonna accelerate 1 to the Miraidon. That's sad to see. And I think I got 3 Nest Balls and 4 of the future grabber cards. Now it's pretty unfortunate if we have to hit into this Pidgeot. Yeah, they're probably gonna Iono me. That hand was like really good with the double Jennies, so we might have been able to knock him out, but I don't even know if the Mew's in the deck. The Mew is also pretty important in this matchup. Mew EX, if we can get a Heavy Baton to pop, when we got to make them take 1 prize. And then if we can get a Heavy Baton to go off, we can put 3 to the Mew and hit them for 330 and one-shot their Charizard. I'm not really sure why they're wasting all their cards like this. It's kind of weird, but I mean, they did it. So we want to get... Do we even have the Mew in the deck? Oh no, we don't have the Mew in the deck. Alright, so we kind of just... Do I get rid of this guy? That is the question. Definitely benching that. I'm gonna bench that as well. Gonna attach here. Grab 1 and 1. I'm debating if I want to be greedy, because I could just knock this Rotom out and go down, but I think the correct play is to just hit into this thing for 120 and accelerate the energy to the bench guy, because we're not getting knocked out. I thought about that a little too long because for some reason in my head I was like, oh no, we can get knocked out this turn, but we can't. And we would kind of love for them to vacuum this away and get rid of their vacuum. That would be really great, but also basically what we want to do now is knock this out with Amp You Very Much for 3 prizes and knock this out. That's kind of our plan right now. It sucks that her hand is so dead. Or we can knock this out for 3 prizes with Amp. Actually, no, I would accelerate more energy. That would be better. Yeah, that would definitely be better. It sucks that Iono like hit us pretty hard. Our hand was so good before that point. And are they Arvening for cards for next turn? They must be, right? Oh, are they gonna counter catcher? If they counter catcher that up, like right now it's gonna stick, and that would be terribly unfortunate. The game could turn like against us really quick. Presumably they grab the Buddy PAF in with that, hopefully at least. I really hope that's what they got. We're hoping they just rode them. They're thinking, I bet they have another counter catcher in their hand and they're debating if it's worth using right now. No, they get the switch. So that makes sense. We can go down to 4? That feels so bad. We really wanted to go down to 3 this turn, but I don't think... that feels so bad because now they can just one-shot my hands really easily. But I need to accelerate energy because I could still one-shot it either way with the Defiance Band. Like there's... What, did we prize? No, we got rid of our research, didn't we? So that's all of our research is down. Yep. That's unfortunate. Another lightning energy. Nice. I was kind of hoping to get the Mew off of that, but you know, what can you do? It's unfortunate because this is like such a good start in theory, but it's gonna fall apart pretty quick. They must have TM Evo. That's interesting. They probably have Rare Candy in hand. Yep. That is not good. And the fact that we had to knock out that Pidgey isn't good either. I would have loved to leave that in play. Could have hit it with this, like bring up the Rotom, knock that out, and then no, this doesn't actually raise Iron Crowns. No, it doesn't. I always forget about that. I always think that the ability adds 20 damage to this attack in the active, but it doesn't. It's unfortunate that Charizard's everywhere. Or maybe it's good because this deck would be terrible if it didn't have a check like this. It would just be a menace. I don't know what's taking him so long. You just get boss or counter catcher or whatever you want to use. Prime Catcher works. They're doing stuff in a really weird order. We would love to top deck something here. And they get to knock this out without using a vacuum, which is terrible for us. But if I could get down another Iron Hands and hit into this, because what I'm doing 60, 120, yeah, then I could knock it out with the first attack. Yeah, because 120 plus 220 is 340. So that's unfortunate. This is terrible. No, they're just gonna boss, and then I knock that out, and then I can't do anything, so... What can you do? This is like, just letting them have Pidgeot and us bricking like this is so terribly unfortunate. Yeah, them benching the Manaphy kind of tells me that they're gonna knock that out. Canceling clone. What? What am I losing to? Did I lose my mind? For some reason I thought they played a Palpad last turn. I don't know why they're thinking so long. All they really have to do is get boss. Alright. Interesting. I wonder, is this the game that... Yeah, I did get rid of the Miraidon. That's funny, because now I might want the Miraidon. I could Arven for Generator. Or not for Generator, for Super Rod, and then Radar for Hands Miraidon? Huh. Or I could Arven for Prime Catcher, knock out the Pidgeot, maybe set up another one of these guys. We have another Arven for next turn. Oh, not having an energy right now is so unfortunate. What Pokemon are in my deck? Alright. So I want to Super Rod back in. Miraidon double energy. Use that to get these two out. I'm gonna bench that in case on the off chance that I hit 2 off of this. Sure, I don't know. This might not be the correct play, but I want to try and knock that out for game if I can get an energy into my hand. I mean, they didn't use their vacuum earlier, so it figures that they would have it. I need an energy card. So badly. Roxanne, alright. And the Mew is the last prize card. Unless I somehow forgot to put Mew in this deck, who knows. I need to top deck energy. It's like the only out. And Iono would have been better because it would have put all those cards to the bottom, but I can't Vessel for energy. Well, I have to Arven for Prime Catcher if I want to win. Aw, man, that feels bad. Even if I could have just like had an energy in my last hand. Oh my god, that's nuts. That's so lucky. Alright, that's kind of a sack, but we did have a lot of energy left in our deck. And, you know, sometimes you gotta rely on a little bit of luck to beat your bad matchups. Oh, that feels good. And we get our Mew off our last prize and somehow beats hard. Alright, so this game we're up against Ancient Box. It could be one of the best matchups for this deck, but I think it can definitely go south pretty quickly if they're able to get like their bosses and counter catchers at the right times. And if the capsules stick, because 200's quite a bit of damage, and you'd really like to not put a bunch of Iron Crowns in play as the hands deck, but sometimes you just have to put them in play, you really have no choice. But we get a pretty good start here. I'm just gonna like quick look through the deck, because decks like this, I don't know, it's not like, you should check your prizes like your Gus cards and stuff, but it's not as often that you're gonna lose the game from not knowing like a single prize card like you would with like Lost Box or Guardy or Tina or any decks like that. But we research, get no generators, which we would have loved to hit 1 or 2, and we just use peak acceleration. Another thing in matchups like this is if you can't like get generators right away and accelerate to a second Iron Hands, you really want to try to use the Miraidon twice. There's like quite a few matchups where if you can use the Miraidon twice, you're in a really good spot and it doesn't put you in the position where Vacuum knockout would just lose you the game, because I think Ancient Box plays Vacuum because this matchup is so bad, and you can beat like someone that's not thinking that far ahead with Vacuum knockout play. So we're just gonna Arven for Generator and Heavy Baton. I don't really know that there's anything better I could have got here, because I could have got, like, they're not gonna disrupt my hand, so I'm not getting this hand down low anytime soon, so I'm not gonna use Mew, and that's another liability. And I'm just debating putting the Heavy Baton on, but I don't really need it right now, because I'm accelerating to a second hands, and I might want to put a booster capsule on it to knock out these 200 HP Roaring Moons with the capsules on them. But I was just checking how many they had in there. They're not knocking out my hands yet, but they're definitely knocking out the Miraidon. And they play the Fire Energy. Looks like they get them put in the discard pile. I'm not really sure how many Dark Energy are in the discard pile, but they get to double attach to this one, which, I don't know, is kind of good for them, but kind of bad because they really wanted to be attacking right away at the beginning. But it looks like they're having troubles finding their Sadas, which is one of the downfalls of this deck, of the Ancient Box deck. That's why I was trying it for a bit with the Dark Patches, just as a little extra insurance to set your guys up. But I'm just gonna I'm debating between the Radar and a Nest Ball, and I figure I'll probably get the Radar because it thins my deck out by an extra card. And I'm probably not gonna need the Counter Catcher because I'm going down to 3 prizes this turn. And I would need to have some really unfortunate luck to have them take 2 knockouts without me knocking out another guy. But with the 3 Iron Crowns and the Future Capsule, I am able to do 200 and take 2 prizes on this Roaring Moon. So that is pretty good. And this is a pretty good spot. They need to like get to a one-shot quick and go one-shot, and have me not be able to set up my little Miraidon to do the 160 attack to hit 200. Or they need to get I can also knock them out with the first attack with, if they don't have a capsule on it and I have a capsule on mine, and what, 4 all 4 of my crowns. So I attached a psychic because, like I said, I do need to do the 160 attack. Well, now I don't, but beforehand, if they knocked out my hands the last turn, I would have needed to attack with my second hands that turn and then do the 160 attack with the Miraidon. But we luck out and they miss an attack and they finally get Asadas going, which means I'm keeping my hand. And even if I didn't keep my hand, there's really nothing that they can do. But they just want to knock out 1 hands at least, I guess. It does get you extra points for the battle pass the more prizes you take. So they're just going to counter catch my guy and let me know that they could have knocked out whoever they wanted that turn if they took a knockout last turn and been in a pretty decent spot. But then they conceded because there was no way that we could lose at that point. Alright, this is kind of an old game. This is from the week that the set came out. This was the deck that I was most excited about, and this is how I had it built originally with the future, what's it called, the reboot pod. But this is a matchup against Goldango. So I'm just thinking, wow, this is probably a terrible matchup, and I still had the gift energies because that's how they were playing it in Japan. And I was kind of debating there attaching to the Iron Hands, but I decided not to because this is like, either we hit Miraidon and we accelerate, or we at least hit an energy because there's a ton of energy in this deck and we just attach on the other side of the Iono. But next turn I can get down, I can Arven for the future binder item and get down a Miraidon, or not, because they're gonna Iono me, and this hand works. It doesn't have much follow-up, but whatever, we can at least use our Miraidon to accelerate. The only bad part about this is if they knock out our Mew, we're in a pretty rough spot. And luckily they don't. It would activate Counter Catcher, but I don't know if that's worth the trade-off. We have the Techno Radar here. I'm just debating what I want to get rid of. It's probably either Switch Cart, Counter Catcher, or an Energy. I don't know, it's kind of a hard choice. I was also playing 3 Switch Carts in this build originally because, I don't know, Snorlax was going to be the best deck of all time when the set first dropped. So I was like, I'm not losing to Snorlax, I'm adding a ton of switches. And then there were still plenty of games that I would lose to Snorlax because 3 switches should be enough in theory, but it kind of doesn't end up being enough. I'm just debating if I should boss or what to boss there, because the Scissor would be nice to knock out, but like I don't know, we could take 2 prizes on it. And the other thing that I was thinking is, like, I want to leave the 50 HP guys in play if I can to knock them out with Iron Crown, because Iron Crown does the 50-50 attack. And I could take 2 prizes with that and also disrupt their board pretty good. But they're playing the water energy right now this early. I don't remember when the Palkia Goldango stuff got started, but I wasn't thinking, or I don't remember Scissor being in it, because that's how I originally wanted to play Goldango, was with a 2-2 Scissor line. And I still think that's like kind of underexplored, because Scissor is like a really good attacker and it's really efficient. But they counter catcher up my Mew. That's unfortunate. It does give us access to counter catcher though, so now I could Arven. I guess I'm not going to do it. But what I probably should do here is send up the Miraidon, Arven for a Nest Ball or a Techno Radar, and counter catcher up the Scyther or the Gimme Ghoul and knock that out and accelerate to a second guy. I do not end up doing that. I don't know that that was the correct play. I do have another Miraidon. Maybe I couldn't remember if the other Miraidon was in the deck or not, but... And I can't knock out their goldango with this guy either. I guess I'm just basically praying that they don't have a Lost Vacuum, or else I pretty much lose. I'll get down 2 more hands to hope. Like, you always want to have a second hands in play in case your baton does work, because you want to have a good target to accelerate to it. And I do bring up the 50 HP Gimme Ghoul. I'm just trying to like disrupt their draw and hoping that they can't knock me out. But I don't know. I guess that guy would evolve, and now if they want to get more goldangos out, they're forced to bench 2 more Gimme Ghouls, which I could knock out with the Iron Crown. And they're just drawing away. I don't really have the best board state here. Like, I pretty much fold to a vacuum. I don't quite remember if I was playing 2 counter catcher or not, so there's no chance that I could like research and counter catcher up the Scyther and knock it out with my Miraidon. But it does look like they're going to put down 2 more 50 HP Gimme Ghouls, which is kind of cool. And they work her with Stadium, that's fine, I'm not going to use it anyway. There's just too many cards that you don't really want to discard in this deck compared to the amount of items. And I don't know, I'm still like messing around with the idea of a future box deck with the reboot pod and energy switches. That's kind of like, I don't have the energy switches in here, but I was kind of relying on the reboot pod to set up an extra Iron Hands later in the game. Like, you know, you can get 2 energy, reboot pod, attach, and then hopefully hit a generator or at least do the 160 attack. And they're not able to knock me out here, which is pretty lucky. I don't know if they chose to not knock me out because they didn't have, like, they're looking for their vacuum, or I don't know what the deal is. I think they should have just knocked me out, like, because then they win next turn. So sometimes people overthink the vacuum play. I know they're like, oh, I shouldn't knock this one out, I'd rather knock out the other guy. But at the end of the day, it's the same result because you're giving me another attack with an Iron Hands. And whereas if you could have knocked this out, you could just win this turn, and now I'm in a position to win next turn with my Miraidon. And if they prop my baton, I can put the Psychic and the Lightning on Miraidon and try and get down a future capsule and knock out the goldango. But so that was just a win on a bad matchup. This deck can definitely pull out wins. If your opponent like even stumbles for a turn, you're probably winning with this deck. But I don't know. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's broken because Charizard counters it, and there are ways to beat it. Like, I've beat it with a lot of decks that should lose to it just by holding my vacuum and you making a vacuum play at the right point. But those are also matchups where if they just accelerated twice with the Miraidon, they probably would have won with the hand. So that's why I try, if I can, I try to accelerate twice with the Miraidon. If it's not like if it doesn't cause me to just lose to a boss on one of my hands, and you can like take 2 prizes maybe even with the 2 Miraidons, then it sets you up in a good spot for the rest of the game, because you really can't depend on your Heavy Baton to prop, because most decks are playing at least 1 Lost Vacuum. But that is Future Hands. Hope you enjoyed, and take care.